Boys, week 3 is in the books, and it was a hell of a one. It was a great weekend. Yet again, got to at least enjoy the early games. A lot of great games. It was a fun one. So I'm going to go over the standings here to start off with. The Toronto Flatliners are in first place overall. They're at 3-0 with a score with 376.88 points scored overall. You've been on fire, Gavin, just killing it. Number 2 overall is Brady's Bunch, part of the NFC. I need to confirm that. Yeah, so Brady's Bunch of the NFC, Toronto Flatliners of the AFC. Brady's Bunch, you're 2-1 after 3 weeks with a score of 361.06 points. You've been great as well, very dominant. Number 3 overall is you, Riley. Little Sebastian, also 2-1 with 364.26 points scored over 3 weeks. And unfortunately, in last place, which is not you, Dave, anymore, it's you, Bryce. The Magic School Bus at 0-3 with 298.2 points. I thought your team looked really good. You're just off to a tough start. You've had some really brutal injuries to really slow you down. So you just need to hang in there, man. It's just a tough start. Someone's got to have a tough start to start the year. This happens every year, and people crawl back from their brutal starts to end up in the playoffs and potentially win it all. So just hang in there, man. No big deal. But yeah, after 3 weeks, just looking at the standings overall, it looks like pretty balanced, especially in the NFC. You got 3 teams that are 2-1 and then 3 teams that are 1-2. Not bad. And in the AFC, you got Gavin at 3-0 leading the charge, Bryce at the bottom, and then you got 4 teams that are either 2-1 or 1-2. So solid. Very, very, very solid. There were also 2 trades last week that I wanted to mention, just to recap. Early on last week, the Velvet Buzzsaws, my dad, he traded Randall Cobb, Jack Doyle, and the Denver defense to you, Shane Rogue Vile, in exchange for Will Dissly, Jamal Williams, and the New York Jets. It was kind of a bit of a puzzling trade when I saw it. Randall Cobb was a guy that I dropped and my dad picked up. He's been looking decent, although he had a lot of drops this week, and he was kind of a thorn in Aaron Rodgers' side. Aaron Rodgers, what am I saying? I'm on night shift this week, guys, so this might be a bit of a challenge. Jack Doyle was my dad's 8th round pick, and you got him now, Shane. He was out this week, but he's been typically one of Andrew Luck's favorite targets. And then Denver defense, which my dad drafted 11th overall. I'm surprised he gave up on them already this year. They drafted Nick Chubb, which was a steal in that draft, 5th overall, I believe. They're looking like they allowed quite a bit of points to the Ravens this past week, but they're a good defense, very, very good. On the other side of it, you got Will Dissly, which was a $10 waiver buy for you, Shane. Now my dad has him. He had a rough week this past week, which is concerning, especially when you got a guy like Will Dissly, who was a no-name coming into the year. New York Jets defense, who's looked really good, all the Cleveland Browns, once they chucked Baker Mayfield in there, which I'll touch on that Thursday night game. Once they threw him in there, New York Jets defense didn't look so good anymore. And then Jamal Williams, which was Shane's 10th round pick. He's a guy, he is technically Green Bay's number 1, although Aaron Jones might be stealing that job, but I don't know. He just gets accolades for his run blocking, his pass blocking. Another trade to touch on though was, I think this one was a little bit bigger in my opinion. It was between Wally World and Way She Goes. So Way She Goes traded away TJ Yeldon, which he bought for $15 last week. Or 2 weeks ago, sorry. Brandon Marshall, which is a $10 buy, and Eric Ebron, which is your 14th round pick. And then Wally World, you traded to What Way She Goes. Chris Hogan, which is your 5th round pick. Holy moly. And Kenny Steele's your 8th round pick. Man, you don't care about when you draft guys. Which, you know what? As I've said before, I respect boldness. What is going on with my camera here? I'm losing focus. I respect boldness, and you're bold. You don't care when you draft a guy. You are not attached to him. You will trade him away. Judging by this trade, after 1 week, Wally World, you had a huge week, and TJ Yeldon was part of that. But I think Chris Hogan and Kenny Stills are the better players in this deal. I think Matt Winter won this trade. We'll see moving forward. Yet again, another trade. I'm sorry, Dave. I think you lost this trade as well. Who knows how it'll turn out. And another thing to touch on, the trade block. We have an announcement for the trade block. The 0-3 Magic School Bus have tossed a couple big names onto their trade block. So I want to throw this out here in the video so you guys are aware that these guys are potentially available. He put up Devin Funchess, David Johnson, Robbie Anderson, who's been kind of a disappointment, Rob Gronkowski, and LeSean McCoy are all on the block. So next week's video, or maybe I'll be doing some videos during the week of some big trades coming our way, because these are some big names and I'm sure a lot of you wouldn't mind having them on your team. So start tossing some trade offers Bryce's way. Also, another thing I wanted to touch on, looking into the waiver wire. So the waiver wire this week, I like to touch on the top three teams, or top three names or teams. Seattle defense is the number one pickup so far. They're taking on the Arizona offense next week in Arizona, and they looked a bit better this week. They scored at least 14 points. But Seattle defense had a strong week against Dallas, and they're looking like they have a great matchup. Number two for pickups this coming week, Vance McDonald, which, Wally World, Dave, you dropped him. You dropped Vance McDonald this past week, and then he put up 19.2 points. So, yikes. He looked good. You guys need to check out the highlights of that game, of the Monday night game. He had a catch, big stiff arm, just completely crushed the cornerback, and then he was gone for like a 75-yard score. So that was really exciting. And the number three pickup this week is Chris Ivory of the Buffalo Bills, because LeSean McCoy is still on the bench, and it's not looking like he'll be back. Or at least, I don't think so. He might be, or at least he'll be limited if he is back, because I think it was fractured ribs. Not a fun injury. Okay, moving on. So the top players after 3 weeks, the top players of week 3. Number 1, we had Drew Brees with 40.54 points. That's Winter, you have him, and he looked unbelievable. 396 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 rushing touchdowns, which both rushing touchdowns were highlight reel plays. One of them was he ran out of the pocket, was running down the left side of the field. He ended up he pressed the B button. I don't know if you guys played Madden. Pressed the B button and did a nice little spin move and dodged 2 oncoming Falcon players and ran in for the score. I couldn't believe it. They kind of they touched him. They couldn't bring him down somehow because Drew Brees he's got old man strength. And then the other was the OT winner, leapt over the pile for it was like a 1-yard score at the goal line, but he leapt over the pile with ease. He was airborne. So hard not to love Drew Brees. He's unbelievable. Number 2 this week was Matt Ryan, which you have him, Dave, and he was on your bench, but you didn't need him. 40.16 points. He was the other side of the Atlanta New Orleans Saints matchup, which went to overtime, which that leap that Brees had was the OT winner. Matt Ryan had 374 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a 2-point conversion. And number 3 on the list was Matt Ryan's big connection this week, Calvin Ridley, which, Gavin, you dropped him, and somehow you sneakily picked him up before the week began. I don't know when you did that, but you somehow got him back. He put up 37 points. He had 8 targets, 7 catches, 146 yards, and 3 touchdowns, which I'd say at least 2 or 3 of them were really beautiful, beautiful plays. He looks like a hell of a player. He outperformed Julio Jones in this matchup. I guess Marshawn Lattimore was shutting down Julio Jones. But wow, Calvin Ridley looks legit. Number 4 was Cam Newton, which, David, you have him and you started him. He put up 29.6 points, only 150 yards passing, 2 passing touchdowns. but then he had 36 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. That's the value of Cam Newton. And especially with these new quarterback rules when it comes to tackling the quarterback, I think that benefits Cam Newton. Being a big boy, he's already hard to take down. And then you got these additional rules that prevent you from really crushing a quarterback. And he might be a lock to get at least 1 rushing touchdown every week. He's going to put up 16 rushing touchdowns. Okay, I'm messing around here. He's not going to do that. But he's a beast. He's gigantic. Anyways, number 5 was also another player that Dave had. You guys are going to notice that Dave had virtually everyone in the top 10 this week. Robert Woods, who put up 28.7 points, 11 targets, 10 catches, very efficient, 104 yards, 2 touchdowns. And the Rams offense is moving the chains extremely efficiently. You got Robert Woods seems to be Goff's number 1 target. He seems to be an all-around guy. He can go for the long pass. He can be the slot man. He's everything. He's basically Cooper Kupp and Brandon Cooks combined, kind of. So, big week for him. And then I kind of cherry-picked these next 5 just because too many quarterbacks were in the top 10. So, number 9 overall was Alvin Kamara. He had 16 rushes for 66 yards. 20 targets, 15 catches, 124 receiving yards. No touchdowns, but he still put up 26.5 points. He had a touchdown in overtime that was taken away because his knee was down just before the 1. I was losing it because I thought they were crucial points, especially at the time, because Riley and I had a very tight matchup until Monday night, which I will mention. Dad. I have Dad written down. Velvet Buzzsaws. This was the waiver wire pickup of the week, apparently. I don't have it written down. Oh, dropped by Shane, then Gavin. Both of you dropped this guy. Jordy Nelson, old man Jordy. He's alive. He had 8 targets, 6 catches, 173 yards, which one of them was huge, like a huge gain. I think it was like 60 or 70 yards, and 1 touchdown. But 173 yards. He put up 26.3 points this week. He looked great. Amari Cooper has not looked great. Jordy Nelson might be a steal, and Velvet Buzzsaws needs that because he had a rough week. He's off to a 1-2 start. He needs guys like this, so that was huge. Adrian Peterson, who Dave has, which we know is part of that big Travis Kelce trade, he had 19 rushes for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's worth 24 fantasy points. Big week from AP. He's still alive. Creaky Hips is still getting her done. Gavin, you had Carlos Hyde. He was 16th overall this week, but within my top 10. 23 rushes for 98 yards and 2 touchdowns for 23.3 points. Once Baker Mayfield entered the game, the Cleveland offense looked like a new team. Everyone seemed to be fully charged. There was a lot of energy in the stadium. I'm really excited to see how the Browns do this coming week because Baker Mayfield is a game changer. He's number 1 overall pick in the draft, and he proved it already. And I notice I've kind of got the NFL Game Pass on over here just for fun, just to kind of set the football mood for me. So I apologize that you'll see flickering on my face, as you probably just saw there. And then number 17 overall, but within my top 10, Tyler Boyd. That was a big pickup for you for $6. Dave, you picked him up. He had 6 catches, 132 yards, and 1 touchdown, and he looks like a locked-in number 2 target for Andy Dalton. And AJ Green left this week with a groin injury. It has not been announced how severe yet, so Tyler Boyd could be a number 1 now. We'll see. All right, my all-star team after 3 weeks. We've got Ryan Fitzmagic, who looked Fitz-tragic. I saw a tweet about that, Fitz-tragic. He threw 3 interceptions last night, but he ended up throwing 3 touchdowns. He's at 101.4 points after 3 weeks. He's been unbelievable. He's kept it rolling. It looked concerning last night, but he still put up the points. And I just wanted to mention the number 2 overall quarterback after 3 weeks is Patty Mahomes with 92.44 points. And Steve, you finally started him. And Deshaun Watson technically put up like 0.8 more points. And it was a quieter week, but still a big week for Patty Mahomes. He looks unreal. Blake, You have the number 1 wide receiver, Michael Thomas, who's put up 72.8 points, and he's breaking records for receptions to start the year. Number 2 wide receiver, Mike Evans, with 64.2 points. Bryce, you've got him. He's your lone bright spot at the moment. He's looked great. He's been Ryan Fitzpatrick's number 1 target. Number 3 wide receiver is Tyreek Hill with 62.90 points. Andrew, you've got him. He had a solid game. It wasn't spectacular, but solid. He looks great. He's obviously Patty Mahomes' number 1 target, and Patty Mahomes is able to air it out. Tyreek Hill can run really, really fast. It's kind of a good combo. You could be looking at like a 70-yard touchdown every other week. The number 1 running back is Alvin Kamara, my boy, with 80 points after 3 weeks. He didn't even get a touchdown this past week, and he was within the top 10 in scoring, so I'll take that. Steve, you've got Todd Gurley, who's the number 2 running back with 75.1 points. The Rams offense looks great, and Todd Gurley leads the charge. Nothing wrong there. He was the number 1 overall pick, and it was well deserved. The number 1 tight end is Travis freaking Kelce with 42.9 points. Dave, why'd you give him up? The number 1 flex play is Melvin Gordon with 66.1 points. He is the Velvet Buzzsaw's kind of lone bright spot to start the year. As I've been calling him, I'm going to continue to call him. He is Todd Gurley light. Very much the same player, just a little less efficient. And then the top 2 defenses after 3 weeks are the Bears, which I picked up for $4 this past week, and I'm very excited about it because they look great. It was a little concerning this week at first. They were down 14-0, but then they didn't allow any more points. Interception machines. Loved it. And then the LA Rams are also tied with the Bears for number 1 with 44 overall points after 3 weeks. Which defenses can be they can be game changers, you know? They can be the difference. Anyways, let's move on to the matchups. We're at 17 minutes in this video. As always, it's going to be a long one. But you guys sign up for it, and I enjoy doing it. So we're going to start off with my matchup, which was a huge win for me because I won 123.22 versus Lil Sebastian Riley, 105.18. I ended up looking like a pretty big beatdown by the end of it all. But it really wasn't. It was really, really close. You had the lead after Sunday because Matt Stafford pushed you over the hump. But yeah, it was a very, very tight matchup. Going over it here, Big Ben versus Matt Stafford. Very, very tight. Big Ben kind of pushing me over the top on Monday night. He looked fantastic again. I'm really excited about him. Wide receivers, you crushed me. Devontae Adams, Adam Thielen, Emmanuel Sanders are all studs. They keep producing for you. That concerned me this week. Cooper Kupp had a big score for me, but otherwise, my wide receivers, especially Keenan Allen, had a very, very quiet game. We had Alvin Kamara versus Saquon Barkley, you picked Saquon Barkley 2 picks before me, and then Alvin Kamara fell to me in the draft. I wanted one of those 2. I was hoping one of those 2 would fall to me. They ended up being a very, 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 very close score here. Kamara 26.5 points, Saquon Barkley 20.2. And Saquon looked really, really good. He churned out 82 rushing yards. It looked like he was going to get more. He had a rushing touchdown as well. The difference in this matchup, though, so going over it all, Kenyon Drake. What happened there? Going into the week, the fantasy experts were very, very high on Kenyon Drake. He only put up 2 points for you. I was licking my lips when I saw that. What concerned me, our tight ends, Njoku, only 4.6 points for me. I have yet to get points for him, but he looked great once Baker Mayfield entered the game, so I'm going to hold on to him and see what happens there. But Kyle Rudolph, man. He didn't do anything for you, and then he had a freaking score and just boosted his score, and all of a sudden, I believe that put you on top of me and gave you a bit of a decent lead, and that scared me. But I was lucky, so Chris Thompson, only 2.2 points for you, and LA Chargers defense got absolutely destroyed by the Rams offense, which is not surprising. And then for me, Chicago defense dominated. And Kerryon Johnson, carry on my wayward son. He is coming up hot. Look out for him. I believe LeGarrette Blount and him matched each other for carries, but Kerryon had 50 more yards, and he was a huge part of that Lions win on Sunday night. Looking over our benches, you made basically all the right decisions. Kenny Golladay with 14.3 points. He's looking like a big target for Matt Stafford. I've heard him called, was it Calvin Johnson? He's like the next Calvin Johnson over there. Maybe who knows? And then on my bench, I had some solid depth. I ended up sitting Corey Davis because he was taking on the Jags, which was a good call. Andrew Luck, only 13.86 points. I'm getting a little bit concerned about him. Geronimo Allison, 14.6 points. Pretty solid game. And I picked up Paul Richardson, who had quiet game other than one big touchdown grab. But good matchup. Huge win for me, man. You were getting a little bit too cocky, so I'm glad that I was able to shame you a little bit. And now we're both 2-1. So great matchup. I'm really, really happy that I got the win because I did not want to start 1-2. That's not a comfortable feeling. All right, matchup number 2. Away she goes. Takes down the Magic School Bus. 107.54 to 79.14. That was a bad week for you, Bryce. Very, very bad week. On the one side, you got Drew Brees putting up 40.54 points, and on the other side, Kirk Cousins only 11.04. And probably the upset of the year. Buffalo ends up winning 27-6. I couldn't believe it. Every time I checked that game, Buffalo somehow had the ball. You had 2 fumbles lost for Kirk Cousins, and it just was an off game. It seemed like Minnesota has a bigger matchup coming up on Thursday night, so I think they were kind of, on their mind, they were just kind of moving on to the Thursday game and just thinking this is an auto win, which it obviously was not. When it comes down to the wide receivers, Jarvis Landry put up 16.3 on Thursday night, looked spectacular with Baker Mayfield. You should be very excited, Winter. Moving forward, he looks like a fringe number 1 wide receiver. Slot him in with Julio Jones, who should start picking it up a bit. That's a great wide receiver pairing. And you got Chris Hogan, who you traded for only 4.6 points. I expect bigger and better things from him. On the flip side, Mike Evans, 22.7 points. Great game by him. 137 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. There was 1 catch. I couldn't believe it. I believe Fitzpatrick threw 2 interceptions like in a row, basically. Like he was looking like he was falling apart. Next drive, just tosses, airmails a ball. Mike Evans catches it in the end zone with ease. Like it just fell. It was like he dropped it in a bucket, and then Mike Evans was the bucket and just dropped her in there. Beautiful catch, beautiful play. Mike Evans looks good. I've never been a fan of Mike Evans, but he's proven me wrong. So Devin Funchess is also another bright spot for you, Bryce. 14.7 points this week. He had a receiving touchdown. He seems to be the touchdown target for Cam Newton. Cam Newton doesn't throw the ball as much or get as many yards as most quarterbacks because he runs the ball so much, but Devin Funchess seems to be the wide receiver to own in Carolina. And then looking over the running backs, it kind of was a bad week for you, Winter. Bilal Powell, 7.3. Yuck. Rex Burkhead, 3.6. Ugh, he left with an injury. And you got David Johnson on the other side for Bryce, 14.1 points. Not a gigantic day. He's lucky he got that receiving touchdown, which was a very nice catch. And I know he's on your block, so I'm interested to see what people offer you for David Johnson. Man, if David Johnson gets traded, you add Lev Bell to the list. What are we doing? We're trading all first rounders this year? This is crazy. Philip Lindsay, only 2 points. I like that. He got ejected. He was a late guy to enter a pile and start throwing bombs, and he got ejected. Which I don't mind because Royce Freeman is my dude, and I need him to become when did I draft him? 5th round pick, 4th round pick. I need him to become that guy. Tight ends kind of neutralized. You got Ertz versus Gronk, which is a great matchup. You guys are pretty even there. Marquise Goodwin finally got going for you, Winter. 10.3 points. Although Jimmy Garoppolo is out for the season with an ACL tear, he's done. He's out. So CJ Beathard's going to slot in there. I believe Marquise Goodwin and him still have some sort of connection, so you should be okay. Defenses, only 3 points each on both sides. Now, looking at your benches, Sterling Shepard, 17 points, was someone you probably would have liked to have slotted in there over Chris Hogan, but who cares? You got the win. Also, Kenny Stills, who you traded for, 13.6 points. He'll be good for you. And you still got Leonard Fournette. You get a win with Leonard Fournette on your bench. Feels nice, doesn't it? And on the flip side, Bryce, you are struggling, but hang in there, man. Marlon Mack was out again. Well, he started last week, but I believe he's still struggling with an injury. He's someone that you gotta figure out what to do with him, because he's really hurting you. And LeSean McCoy, not having him start for you is tough. Tough to fill a hole like that. I believe he was your 3rd round or 4th round pick, and you need those guys in your lineup if you're going to get wins. You're also holding on to Dez Bryant, which I haven't heard any news about him signing anywhere. I would look into picking up somebody else on the waiver wire, which, looking at your team, 0-3, you're going to need to make some changes. All right, on to the next matchup. We got the Odell Republic, 128.98 points versus Rogueville, 91.3. You got slammed, Shane. Kyle put the slamming on you, and he didn't even really have Russell Wilson to help him out that much. Russell Wilson was more of a game manager this week, kind of handing the ball off a lot. Only 192 pass yards, which is rare for him. 15.58 points versus Aaron Rodgers, who had a quiet week, 19.9 points, which you'll take. But it's not Aaron Rodgers-esque, That's not the typical Aaron Rodgers. He would have done better if fucking Randall Cobb, there's the F-bomb. Randall Cobb, I don't like him because I drafted him, dropped him, then he played, then he not very good. He's just a sore spot for me. Anyways, apparently he dropped a bunch of balls, so you have him to hate for Aaron Rodgers' less than stellar score. Wide receiver matchups. Kyle, on your side, OBJ showed up, 109 receiving yards, 15.4 points for you. And Mike Williams, ooh, mama, 2 receiving touchdowns. One of them was a stellar grab where he had to reach out in the end zone. I think it was a 40-yard toss or something like that. I'm just throwing numbers out there. 22.1 points for Mike Williams. Ooh, baby, he looks nice. And Keenan Allen only put up 4 points for me, so thanks for stealing the points, buddy. And on the flip side, you had a lot of disappointment, Shane. DeAndre Hopkins, 11.6, which Will Fuller looks like the number 1 target for Deshaun Watson. That's a little bit concerning. Stephon Diggs shows how he can have a very, very high ceiling and also a very low floor. Only 3.7 points for Stephon Diggs. And Randall Cobb, the thorn in everyone's fucking side, 2.3 points. Gross. Running backs, Christian McCaffrey and the Crow. That was basically the game changer in this matchup. Christian McCaffrey, 20.4 points. Isaiah Crowell, 18.1 versus Lamar Miller, 11.6, and Latavius Murray, 5.6 points. Disappointing. You got Dalvin Cook out with an injury. Only 5.6 points from the now starting running back, Latavius Murray. But the Vikings offense as a whole was a letdown. Tight ends, Evan Ingram, he is out. And I believe I wrote it down here somewhere. Evan Ingram, sprained MCL. Sounds like a week-to-week injury. He only got you 2.4 points because he left early, and you're going to need to make some moves for a tight end, or do you have someone on your bench? You do not, Kyle, so you're going to be looking for a tight end. On the flip side, O.J. Howard, 10.2 points, and he looks great. Cameron Brate did get a touchdown, but O.J. Howard looks really good. Really, really good. So he is someone to hold on to, Shane, and keep moving forward. In your flex spots, great matchup. Tyler Lockett, 16.2 points. He's filled in for Doug Baldwin as the number 1 guy in Seattle beautifully. And then on the other side, another Seattle player, Chris Carson, 19.4 points, 102 rush yards, a rushing touchdown, 22 receiving yards. He looked great. I have Rashad Penny. I hate seeing Chris Carson succeed. But that was a huge pickup for you, Shane. I believe you spent some fab for him, didn't you? $15 pickup, Chris Carson. At the time, I kind of questioned it because Chris Carson's being kind of below average, but looking like a great waiver wire ad. And then your defenses was basically a wash. Carolina versus Jacksonville. Looking at your benches, Kyle, Mark Ingram, you're getting them back not next week, but the week after, and then they have a bye week, so that's kind of painful. But you're looking forward to having him in there. Although Isaiah Crowell, like what's going on there? The guy keeps producing. As always, though, Kyle, you got the win, and your bench basically did nothing. Somehow you always seem to slot in the right guys. I hate witnessing it. I wish I had that strength because I always either drop a guy who I shouldn't drop or I start the wrong freaking guy. It's always wide receivers, I find. On the flip side, the bench of you, Shane, Jamison Crowder, 12.5 points. He started off the year very, very, very cold, but he got a receiving touchdown, and I think that him and Alex Smith are beginning to get some sort of connection there, and you need that because Jamison Crowder, he needs to be their number one guy. Although they keep winning with them. They beat Green Bay. Like, what the frig? Is Washington legit now? Like, I don't understand. Devontae Freeman was out for you. That is concerning. I don't know if he'll be back yet. It's his injury. I believe it's a knee or hammy. No, it's knee. It's knee. I don't know. I'm not sure if he'll be back. And then Jack Doyle, which you traded for Jack Doyle. You've got O.J. Howard. You've got a great tight end tandem with the two of them. You're in a good spot because Andrew Luck, he likes to use Jack Doyle. I believe he's his number one guy. Even though Eric Ebron has looked great, Jack Doyle will always be his number one resort for passing to tight ends. All right, moving on to the next matchup. You got the Toronto. This is the biggest beatdown of the week. Toronto Flatliners 123.04 to Velvet Buzzsaws 79.24. Ooh, my dad is off to not a good. His last 2 weeks have looked not so great. Gavin, you picked up Ryan Fitzmagic this past week off of waivers. I believe it was for free or for super cheap. Let me take it. Yeah, you got him for free, which was kind of dumb, but I didn't need him. I guess no one else felt like they needed him. It looked concerning early on Monday night because he was an interception machine, but he ended up tossing 3 touchdowns in the end and a 411 passing yards. Really big game from him. And then on the flip side, you got Jimmy Garoppolo, who put up 22.3 points. He looked like he's starting to turn it on, and then he tears his ACL, and he is out for the season. So you got CJ Beathard slotting in there. Wide receivers, both of you, not huge points, really. Brandon Cooks led the way for you, Gavin, with 12.5 points. On the other side, AJ Green left early with a groin injury. That is concerning. Hopefully get an update soon, Dad, and hopefully it's not so bad. Then you put in Dante Pettis, who put up a big fat donut for you. I think you're on a donut streak here, Mr. Velvet Buzzsaw. I don't know what you did there. I don't know why. You definitely should have started Jordy Nelson, but how are you supposed to know that? How? You can't. Running backs, Ezekiel Elliott and Jordan Howard led the way for you, Gavin, although Zeke only put up 13.3 points. He had 127 rushing yards, but no touchdowns, which will hurt you. 3 receptions for no yards, and he had a fumble lost. But Jordan Howard looked solid with 15.1. On the other side, got Melvin Gordon, 15.4 points. As I keep calling him, Todd. And, oh my God, I actually didn't realize this. You also started Eckler, which I respect starting 2 running backs on the same team, maybe. Although against the Rams defense, that's a tough call to make. Rams defense is really good. So I think that's kind of where you lost in the matchup. You got Travis Kelce. I don't like you. 15.4 points versus George Kittle, 12.4. George Kittle finally got it going, but now Jimmy G is out. So that's painful. And then the flex spot. This is probably the difference maker in this matchup. James Conner, 12 points. Dante Moncrief, 0.6. Ouch. And the Cleveland defense, 9 points. Somehow Baker, actually they look good. They've looked good all season. Myles Garrett is an absolute stud. Sack machine. I could see him getting at least 15 sacks this year. He's just unbelievable. All right, looking at your benches, you got 2 big names to mention here. You got Calvin Ridley, who put up 37 points, Gavin. Wow, he was unbelievable with those 3 touchdowns. He looks great. And you also had Carlos Hyde on your bench, who put up 23.3 points. Apparently you didn't need either of them because you dominated You crushed without either of those guys in your lineup. You also have Doug Baldwin, who continues to be out with an injury, and Alshon Jeffrey on your bench, and Greg Olsen, which I read an update on him. Sounds like he's progressing quicker than expected. But you don't even need him. You have Travis Kelce. On the other side, Jordy Nelson, which was the waiver wire pickup of the week. 26.3 points for him on my dad's bench. Unfortunate, but it's the way she goes. Larry Fitz with only 1.9 points, and you put him on your bench, so that was a good call. And then Alex Collins was also on your bench. You put up 14.9 points. It doesn't really matter in the end. You would have lost anyways. But still, it's painful when you got a lot of bench points sitting there that, you wish you had them in your lineup. Also kind of concerning, Dion Lewis. Not a big game from him. It looked like it was the Derrick Henry show this past week in their really boring 9-6 win for Tennessee over the Jags. And then Will Dissly with a very quiet 1 reception, 4 receiving yards game, 0.9 points. Yikes. Whatever. He was a no-name coming in, had 2 huge weeks, 1 down week. Let's see what happens week 4. Maybe he'll turn it back on again. All right, this is my my matchup of the week, let's say. Wally World. Dave, you finally did it. You looked pretty bad after 2 weeks. 135.6 points for you this week versus Andrew, your 97.66. You got beat down. Beat down. No one saw it coming. I didn't see it coming. I'm sure Dave didn't even see it coming. Unbelievable week for you. Cam Newton with 29.6 points to Jared Goff. On Andrew's side, 26.56, basically a wash at quarterback. Tyreek Hill was not very good. Allen Robinson, not very good. Marvin Jones, solid. On the flip side, though, Robert Woods with a great game. And Antonio Brown, solid game. Not amazing, so I would sit and wait for that because Antonio Brown is going to blow up soon. Juju's leading the charge right now, but I could see Antonio Brown taking over very, very shortly. You also had Brandon Marshall slotted in there, Dave, and you traded for him. Disappointing effort, though. Only 2 receptions for 30 yards. Not the best. Andrew, you had picked up Giovanni Bernard, which ended up being a great pickup. He put up 17.1 points. He had a rushing touchdown. He was in on, I believe, 88% of snaps. Huge game for him, and I believe Joe Mixon will be out yet again next week, so he's a good player to have on your team. And Adrian Peterson, creaky hips, 24 points. Which, if you're wondering why I call him that, I don't know. I just decided it looks like he runs like he has creaky hips. Those hips look like they're hurting him. But 24 points, 2 rushing touchdowns, 120 rush yards. Like, holy crap. Adrian Peterson, he's not old. He still got it. No big deal. Your tight ends were a wash. TJ Yeldon put up 12 points for you, Dave, which I question that trade, but still, you got production. Looking at your benches, Andrew, you probably would have liked to have slotted in Sammy Watkins over Tyreek Hill, but why would you ever do that, right? It is nice, though, to see that Sammy Watkins is producing. He's been an underperformer throughout his career, so maybe him and Mahomes are beginning to show some chemistry. On the flip side, Dave, you had Tyler Boyd on your bench, Matt Ryan on your bench, and Javorius Allen. You had 90.16 points total on your bench. Tyler Boyd put up 22.7. Matt Ryan put up 40.16. 5 passing touchdowns from him. Calvin Ridley and him look great. And then Javorius Allen, who didn't really actually have many yards, but he had 2 touchdowns. So things are looking up for you, Dave. Good job, man. I'm excited for you. Look out for Dave. Dave is not that matchup that you need to be excited for. You even had Dalvin Cook on your bench out with an injury, so your team could produce even better. So great win for you, Dave. I'm happy for you, even though you continue to make questionable trades. All right, on to the next and last matchup. We had Finkel Einhorn taking down Brady's Bunch, 119.76 to 99.82. Looking it over, Patty Mahomes, you finally put him in your starting lineup over Deshaun Watson, which technically was the wrong choice, technically. Still, both put up over 25 points. Tom Brady, probably the worst week he will have all year. Only 133 pass yards. I guess Matt Patricia being the defensive coordinator last year for the Patriots, maybe he had some, some tips. He kind of knew what the Patriots would try to do to him. He stymied Tom Brady, and basically the whole Patriots offense is Detroit won 26-10, but only 8.52 points for Tom Brady, which is something I don't expect you'll see for the rest of the year. So you got that out of the way. It's a tough pill to swallow because you got the loss, but you got out of the way. Tom Brady will be fine the rest of the year. Your wide receivers, Michael Thomas, 17.9 points, and Juju Smith-Schuster, 16.1 points. I believe Michael Thomas is the number 1 wide receiver, and Juju is the number 6 overall. So you currently have, I believe, the best wide receiver tandem, and they've looked phenomenal. On the flip side, T.Y. Hilton and Amari Cooper were huge disappointments for you, Steve. It didn't matter. You got the win. Will Fuller, 18.6 points. I believe he had 11 targets, 101 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown, and he appears to be Deshaun Watson's number 1 target, which I didn't see that coming this year. It was especially concerning because Fuller's been suffering hamstring injuries, or he was suffering a hamstring injury to start the year. People always say that hamstring injuries, especially for speedsters like Fuller, is a concerning thing. But he's looked phenomenal, and Deshaun Watson loves hitting him. So Shane, as a Hopkins owner, I would be slightly concerned, but don't be overly concerned because Hopkins is a monster regardless. Running backs, it was actually a wash, basically. Kareem Hunt and Marshawn Lynch for you, Blake, put up 16.4 and 16.1 points. 2 big games from them. Kareem Hunt had 2 rushing touchdowns. He was my DraftKings pick of the week. He got me some money. Thank you very much, Kareem Hunt. On the flip side, Todd Gurley, 22.1. He's always good. And Matt Breida, 13.2 points. I think he left with an injury, or he's struggling with an injury right now after the game. He's looked great. He's looked like he's a number 1 guy over my boy Alfred Morris, who Alfred Morris did vulture a touchdown. Your tight ends, I know that you started the wrong tight end, Blake, which must bother you a bit. It wasn't like you lost out on a shit ton of points, but Jimmy Graham put up 7 points to Jesse James 1.2, which I was surprised he did that because Jimmy Graham he's been a really good tight end this year, being pretty consistent until last week. Defenses, Blake, you've got the LA Rams defense, which is tied for being the number 1 defense. They put up 14 points to Miami, who put up 8 for you, Steve, which Miami's defense has looked really good to start the year, which is very surprising. And then another notable mention on your team, Steve, is Chris Godwin. Although Mike Evans is obviously being the number 1 target for Fitzpatrick, Chris Godwin, Deshaun Jackson had a quieter week this week, I believe. Yeah, you started him, Blake. He was in your... Sorry, actually, that's a very interesting flex matchup. You had Deshaun Jackson of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus Chris Godwin of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 13.9 points for Chris Godwin versus 5.2 for Deshaun Jackson. Finally, Deshaun Jackson had a bit of a quiet week, and Chris Godwin looks really, really good. And then judging by your benches, yes, technically you could have put in Deshaun Watson, Steve. You probably have the best quarterback tandem coming into this year. Otherwise, your bench, nothing special going on other than Lev Bell on the IR for you, which you're so lucky you get to slot him into your IR. Like, he's not injured. He's just, holding out. But whatever. Quiet benches, though. Quiet benches for both of you. So yeah, it was a great week. Sorry, boys. 43 minutes we're at here. And my voice is actually going a bit. Great week, though. As I said before, we're looking pretty balanced other than you, Gavin, with a 3-0 start. I am up against you this coming week, and I look to take you down and match you at 3-1 after next week, hopefully. But yeah, Bryce obviously has some big names out there on the trade block. There should be... I wouldn't say there's any huge waiver wire ads yet. It's kind of boring on the waiver wire, but I'm sure, Bryce, you'll be active. And yeah, I expect there to be some big trades, which I promise you guys, if it's big enough, if I deem it big enough, I'll make a video for the trade. So if David Johnson's on the move, you can guarantee I will be making a trade. But yeah, great week, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm sorry that I seem to be losing energy here. I lost that excitement. I'll get it back next week, guys. I'll get it back. Great week, though. I look forward to the Thursday night matchup, which isn't Minnesota. It's Minnesota and someone. It's a big one. I should have looked into that before I started talking about it. I'm excited for football next week. Sundays are my day. It's my day to relax, and I love it. And I cannot wait for it. Yet again, if you don't have DAZN, I recommend it. $20 a month. You get NFL Red Zone, which is the perfect thing to throw on at 1 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon. Great week, though, boys. I look forward to the next one.